This is Temin for las Perlas del Mar, and we're here with Vandana Shiva for the conference Shout Out in relation to the G20, G8. Hi, Vandana.
Hi.
I have a few questions for you. The first one is, what are the challenges of neoliberal policy and neoliberal environment going beyond the mere distributional aspects of differential processes to economic and social rights? And what is the intersectionality with violence against women, women's rights, and climate change?
That's a big question.
Yes.
I think the first thing about the neoliberal agenda is that it puts corporations first.
Mm-hmm.
And even though corporations are a legal fiction, they are a piece of paper that gives legal personality to this fictitious entity, but there are real people who gain, who hide behind this construction. This construction is the highest evolution of capitalist patriarchy. At the household level in capitalist patriarchy, you have violence against women. Mm-hmm. At the level of patriarchy within the household, as defined within a family. But we have another house, we have another home, which is the planetary home. Mm-hmm. And at that level, the patriarch is the corporation. And that patriarch is using all the means of patriarchy to take power and maintain it. These instruments have always been instruments of violence. In my work over the last 40 years, I have seen and defined the violence against nature as violence against nature in feminine form.
Yes.
After all, the earth is Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the violence against the earth is violence against our Mother Earth.
And those impacts it will have on women.
Exactly.
And women's lives.
Yeah. Now, it so happens that the way industrialism has evolved and the way capitalism has evolved, it split society in terms of a gender division of labor. Mm-hmm. The men went off to the factories, the men went off to the plantations, the women stayed home and grew the food. Mm-hmm. The women stayed back and fetched the water. Mm-hmm. And so women ended up being the caretakers of the subsistence economy or the sustenance economy, the providers of food and water. Now, that is now the economy.
There has been a rift in the economy since last year, 2 years ago, that has changed the course, though.
Now, what is happening is the section of the economy that women controlled, which is the sustenance economy, providing food, providing water, that's precisely the place where corporate capital wants to now make its profits. So the commodification of seed, the patenting of seed, is a transfer of power from women who are the seed savers into the hands of a Monsanto. Mm-hmm. The growing of food. Most providers of food in the world are women. Most farmers of the world are women. But even while women continue to labor, the power over agriculture is shifting to Cargill and agribusiness. And the World Trade Organization rules of intellectual property hand over this power to Monsanto. The World Trade Organization rules on agriculture hand over this power to Cargill. So you are seeing women having to continue to look after the needs of their families for food and water, mm-hmm. with less and less power and less access to food and water.
And how is this interconnected to the feminization of poverty and the feminization of migration?
The first people who migrate when things go bad are the men. And the women are left in the villages.
There is a shift, though, in the feminization of migration.
I was coming to that. When things go deeply desperate, when the water gets less, the men will leave. And the women will continue to walk long distance. When the water disappears, then even the women must leave. I have done studies for our National Commission of Women, which is the statutory body at the national level for women's rights and women's empowerment. And we were asked to look at what has globalization done to women's right to water, and what has globalization done to women in agriculture. Now, in terms of women's rights to water, what my experience tells me is women are having to walk further and further. 10 miles is where they cannot walk further. You don't have a day in which you can go back and forth and put a pot on your head and walk back. That's the point at which women rise and say no more destruction. And I worked with movements that shut down shrimp farms because industrial aquaculture is very destructive of water. I have worked with the movement of women in Kerala against Coca-Cola, which was stealing and mining the water. So women are exploited, women are victimized, but women are also resisting this theft of their resources. The same goes for food. Agribusiness is marginalizing women in agriculture. Women have had a very important role. But when seeds are not saved on farm, women are no more seed savers, women are no more seed experts. You buy seeds from Cargill. When farmers buy seeds from Cargill, it's always the men who get trapped. They get into debt, they commit suicide, and they leave behind widows, 200,000 widows. I call them Monsanto widows. So we are building the movement of defending our seed rights. We're building the movement of making sure farmers don't have to lose their lives, that biodiversity survives into the future. And of course, as economic stresses go in society, all kinds of violence deepen. They don't get created, but they deepen. So, for example, in India, caste violence is growing. Violence against women is growing. We've never had the kind of spate of what they call honor killings, where girls and boys marrying across caste boundaries are now being assassinated. And part of it is the violence that's unleashed when men in society lose power and they don't have the organizational capacity to fight those who are dominating them. They turn around within their own societies and start unleashing the violence against those who are below them in the hierarchy, whether it's a gender hierarchy, whether it's a class hierarchy, whether it's a caste hierarchy, or a race hierarchy. The resistance is anyway happening. I think the challenge is for combining the resistance, for networking the various forms of resistance that are taking place. And as far as the women's resistance is concerned, at least in my country, the resistance is around basic issues like the right to land, the right to food, the right to water. And women are acting on this. What is needed is both a supporting philosophy that ties up all of these diverse forms of resistance, and at least for me that philosophy is ecofeminism, and a networking between the movements, which is what we try and do. So if people are fighting for defense of their land, we pull the movements together. And then they realize they are not individual little rivulets. They are a major stream that could become a major river and a river of transformation.
Thank you very much.